What's up guys, Humphrey here. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're talking about 5 easy financial goals that I think anybody can start with. Seriously actionable stuff. So if you watch this video all the way to the end and also implement just any one of these tips, you're gonna feel a lot more in control of your finances. Even if your financial life is under control, you can still look at these tips or these financial goals and see how you stack up against them. I've actually polled some of my friends, and even a lot of my friends who are very financially responsible haven't even done some of these tips. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, Humphrey, how do you have friends? All I know you do is just play video games all the time, and you can't really count your World of Warcraft guild as your friends, can you? Well, to that I say, who else do you spend 4 hours a week with raiding epic dungeons and getting cool ass loot? If you are one of those people that do play World of Warcraft, make sure to give me a holler because I'd love to hear from you. Now, before we start, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed, so if you do end up enjoying this content, please make sure to drop a subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind. All right, let's get into the first financial goal that's very easy that we can talk about today that anybody can do, and it's literally writing down anything that you spend. This is something that literally everybody can do. You just bring a little notepad around with you, and every time you spend some money, just write it down in that notepad. According to You Need a Budget, just doing this little tip alone can save you about 10 to 20% on your expenses. Now, by writing down exactly what you spend for about 2 to 4 weeks, now I personally like to do about 3 months, but if you can do it for 2 to 4 weeks, you're gonna get a valuable amount of data and information to even start a budget with. This is one of the habits that I've been doing since 2014. So back in 2014, I actually had drinks with this guy, coffee specifically, not, alcoholic drinks.
No drinking on the job.
But I had coffee with a man who had over 9 figures in net worth, and he just said to me simply, Humphrey, if you can't run your own life, how do you expect to run a business? And so from then on, he actually gave me an exercise, which was to track my expenses. Now, in the first 2 months that I did this of tracking my expenses, I do have a video on that, by the way, which I will link right up here. But in the first 2 months alone, my personal spending dropped by about 27%. Now, what I personally do, guys, is I have an app on my iPhone here that's called Spending Tracker. And what I'll do is I'll just click on this little guy, and every time I spend any money, I just click add expense and I just log it right there. And at the end of every month, what I do is I move all of my expenses into a Google spreadsheet manually. For those starting out, I would say try documenting it in an actual notebook physically, because that'll help you build the habit. So do that for about 2 to 4 weeks before you move on to your phone and tracking your expenses that way. Now, the beauty of this entire exercise is that you don't really have to focus on investing your money. You don't have to focus on saving a certain percentage of your money. All you have to do is whenever you have an expense, write it down, and that's the sole objective of this habit. What's really interesting about this exercise is that I didn't feel any less happier than I did before, even though my personal spending dropped by 27%. What I realized was I just cut out some of the things that were kind of unnecessary. This is one of the easier financial goals out there, because by doing this, you're gonna be able to benefit from it immediately, and you're gonna expose some of your budgeting weaknesses. So with that being said, let's go on to our second easy financial goal, which is paying yourself first. Paying yourself first is super easy. You just go into your online banking, set up an automatic transfer on a specific interval, for example, the 1st or the 15th of every month, and decide how much you want to actually pay yourself. And doing this simple act will help you actually save a lot of money. This will take about 10 minutes, but by putting saving first, you're basically mentally compartmentalizing the differences between your savings and your actual income. And this way, it'll actually build savings into more of an automated system for you. When I was earning a regular paycheck, my automatic transfer date was the 15th of every month, and I would take out 15% from my paycheck and deposit it straight into a savings account. And from there, you can do a few things with those savings. Number one is to start an emergency fund. If you don't already have one of these, basically it's 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up in an emergency fund or a savings account that you're never gonna ever touch unless for an emergency. The next thing that you can do with your savings is to pay off any high interest rate debt or any debt in general, but I would prioritize any high interest rate debt above 10%. I think being debt free is one of the most empowering things that you can do for your own financial life. It'll give you a lot of confidence moving forward and removes the burden of, oh my God, I have to make a payment every single month. Now, it's not intuitive, but by paying off debt, you can actually make money. So if your savings account is paying you a 1% interest rate, but all of a sudden, if you're able to pay off credit card debt at 15% interest, it's effectively like you're earning 15% on your money. Now, the last thing that you can do with these savings is to invest it for your future. I have plenty of videos on how to invest, the types of investments that you can go after, but some of the greatest investments for beginners are things like index funds and ETFs. Personally, I like ticker symbol VOO VOO or VTI, and those are just ETFs that track the entire stock market or the S&P 500. And by buying this one fund, you're buying a small percentage of everything that that fund owns. It's a great way to diversify and probably one of the easiest ways to get started with investing. Now, the next financial goal that I want to talk about is so easy that you don't even have to do anything. There's no work involved.
That's true.
It's simply a different type of mindset, and by adopting this mindset, you're gonna save a lot of money. With the advent of credit cards and us as a society not actually using cash anymore, it's basically a lot easier to spend a lot of money. So physically, it's harder to spend this $100 bill because there's gonna be a psychological barrier when it comes to spending this $100 bill, which is, oh my God, I have to break this $100 bill in order to spend it. Studies are now showing that fewer people than ever are actually carrying cash these days. And not only that, credit cards encourage extra spending because people have given up on cash. They've made it so easy these days to just spend your money swiping this card. So what's the best solution here? I personally think that the best thing that you can do is to treat your credit card like cash. And I have a few tips to make you feel like you're actually spending your money when you're just swiping a credit card. The first thing that you can do is ask for a receipt, because by getting a receipt, you're physically receiving a tangible good after you spend your money on your credit card, and therefore it's a better physical representation of the money you just spent. Number two is that you could remove the automatically saved credit card information that you might have in your computer browser or your mobile phone. I know that for me, it's physically a lot easier to spend money when all I have to press is one button versus actually typing in the physical numbers of my credit card. The last thing that you can do is whenever you're about to make a purchase, just check your bank account and see if you have enough money to cover that purchase. So for example, if I only have $100 of cash in my wallet, I'm not going to be able to buy, like, for example, these $500 pair of sneakers, which are absolutely ridiculous that they're $500, but I'm going to make a review on them very shortly here on YouTube, and we're going to talk about if they're actually worth the hype and worth $500 or not. So by adding a few barriers to your spending, especially with a credit card, you're going to be a lot better off financially. So remember, guys, treat your credit card as cash as much as you can. Okay, our next easy financial goal here is to just track your net worth as the months and the years go by. Now, this practice is actually very fun because as you age and you start to make more money and hopefully pay off debt, your net income is going to grow. Your net worth is going to grow larger and larger, and it's going to be really fun to look back and see how much progress you've made. To calculate your net worth, it's actually pretty easy. You just have to add up all of your assets, subtract any debts or liabilities that you may have, and the difference is your net worth. So this is really oversimplified, but let's say you had a house worth $100,000 and a bank balance of $25,000, then your total assets would be $125K, but let's say you owed $30,000 on a car. Well, in that situation, your total net worth would be $125 minus $30 or $95,000. I like tracking my net worth on a month-to-month basis, but sometimes that's a little bit too short of a time frame. So I think a better time frame would be every quarter you check your net worth, because that'll give you a better long-term financial picture. If you're starting right out of college, it's pretty common to have a negative net worth because of how much student loan debt you might have compared to how much you have in the bank. But as long as you're staying productive, making some income, and perhaps you're paying yourself first, which is a reference to an earlier section of this video. You guys see what I did there? That's like Inception, Videoception. If you do that, I believe your net worth will start to climb. And one of the main goals that you want to get to, especially right out of college, is to get to a net worth balance of $0. I know a $0 balance is not the sexiest net worth out there, but according to CNBC, most people that have student loans for their entire lifetime, which is pretty crazy. So I think that if you do get to a $0 net worth, that you should be pretty proud of that. There are a bunch of ways to track your net worth. You can use Google Sheets like I do. I just set up a bunch of columns for assets and another bunch of columns for debts and liabilities, and I try to take the difference of them to get my net worth. Or you can use an app like mint.com, or You Need a Budget. Okay guys, the next financial goal that you can easily do is to boost a credit score, especially if it's low. The first thing that you should do is to check your credit score, because by checking your credit score, you're going to understand exactly where you might be lacking and how to improve it quickly. For places on checking your credit score for free, I've used things like Credit Karma in the past. That is pretty good because number one, it's free and it updates once a week and takes data from TransUnion and Equifax. So once you have your score, improving a low credit score just comes down to knowing what the 5 factors that go into a credit score are and improving on the worst ones that you might have. So the 5 factors are, in no particular order, how much you owe, how much credit you're using, the length of your credit history, your credit mix, and also types of new credit. Now, in terms of what's going to help you build your credit rather quickly, number one, you can pay off a large portion of your balance. This usually helps your credit score the most because it reduces your credit utilization rate, which is one of the factors that goes into your FICO credit score. The other thing you can do is simply ask for a limit increase. You can do this by calling your credit card company and being like, hey, Can I get my limit increased? Because by doing so, you're actually going to raise the amount of credit available to you, thereby reducing the amount of credit you're actually using. Now, full disclosure, this doesn't always work, especially if your credit score might be really, really low, but it does work for quite a few people out there. Now, in the same vein, you could just go out and get a new credit card. Now, this one's a little bit dangerous because you don't want to just be getting a new credit card to increase your total available credit, because that seems a little bit backwards to me. But if you were going to get a new credit card anyway, that's just one of the added benefits, is that your credit limit will probably be increased across all your credit accounts. Lastly, you can get added to another person's credit card as an authorized user, and this is actually known as what's called the authorized user hack. To do this, you want to find someone that you trust and that has a good credit score with a good payment history, and just ask them if, hey, you can do me a favor and add me to your existing credit card as an authorized user. You don't even have to use the credit card that's issued to that authorized user, which is you. You just have to be attached to their account, and by being attached to their account, you're going to piggyback off of their good credit and their good payment history, and that's going to transfer over to your credit score. It's one of the quickest ways to boost your credit score. The key here, though, is to find someone that you trust with a good credit history, because if they start to miss payments, that could actually negatively impact your credit score. Boosting your credit can be as easy as 10 to 20 minutes on the phone, and if you aren't taking advantage of some of the hacks that I just listed, then make sure to do so. All right, guys, if you found this video helpful at all, drop me a comment and drop a like on this video, and also subscribe to my channel for future videos from me. If you'd like a free stock from Robinhood, when you deposit any amount of money, it can just even be $1, use the link in my description below for that. Lastly, a quick thank you to all my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what I invest in my portfolio, as well as whenever I buy and sell a stock, you get notified. The link for that is in my description below as well. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.